It's Monday, the 6th of November 2023. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed Business News, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Adam Lang, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Adam.
Sean, story number 1 this morning. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is in China in a visit that Beijing is describing as one of great significance that will provide both countries with a chance to review bilateral ties.
In comments that have a similar tone to those made when the Prime Minister was in Washington visiting US President Joe Biden early last week, state media, a mouthpiece for the Chinese regime, warned Albanese should not be kidnapped by the United States in his relations with Beijing. Clearly, there's still a long way to go before relations are normalised between the two countries, with excessive tariffs still being levied on some products and Australia's closeness to the US a major concern for Beijing. Albanese received a big welcome when he touched down in Shanghai over the weekend. He spent yesterday at the China International Import Expo, where several hundred Australian businesses are showcasing their products and services.
Sean, the Prime Minister and Chinese President Xi Jinping meet today. What is on the agenda?
Well, geopolitics and the role of China and Australia and, of course, the US, how they all play together in the region will be towards the top of the agenda, but so too will trade. There are still tariffs on $2 billion worth of goods, mostly agricultural, while Beijing is reviewing sanctions on $1.2 billion worth of wine. Albanese yesterday said he wanted to see a reduction on tariffs on Australian lobster exports. Also, China wants to join the Trans-Pacific Free Trade Bloc, and Australia, along with Japan, opposes the move. The Prime Minister said that it's in Australia's national interest to have a positive, constructive and open and respectful dialogue with China. He hopes to achieve that. He repeated his line that Australia needs to cooperate with China and we'll disagree where we must. He also pushed the latest tourism campaign. Its tagline is "Come and say g'day." Apparently, China visitors' numbers are still about half of what they were pre-pandemic.
Sean, story number 2. Treasurer Jim Chalmers has warned that the government needs to cut back spending on infrastructure to help get inflation under control.
The comments yesterday came ahead of the Reserve Bank board meeting tomorrow, which is widely tipped to lift interest rates, taking the cash rate to 4.35%, which in turn will push the standard variable rate on a mortgage towards 7%. Ouch. Speaking on the ABC yesterday, Chalmers said the government needs to make some tough decisions about the infrastructure pipeline. The comments came days after the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, warned that a record $30 billion in infrastructure spend had pushed the economy beyond its limits. The problem with that is that it pushes inflation higher. Chalmers has come under fire in recent weeks for suggesting rates don't need to rise, comments which probably does put some pressure on new Reserve Bank Governor Michelle Bullock. Notwithstanding that pressure, bond markets have priced in a 69% chance of a cash rate hike tomorrow.
Sean, story number 3. The Ashes broadcast will remain split between 2 networks until at least 2031 after Nine Entertainment secured the rights to the next 2 Test series in England.
That's right. So 7 host the Ashes that are held in Australia, but 9 will pay about $40 million to air the 2027 and 2031 clashes in the biennial cricket contest, according to a story in the Financial Review. The rights are likely to remain jointly held by Nine and paid TV company Foxtel. The deal ends Seven West Media's efforts to bring the entirety of the Ashes onto its free-to-air network. The England and Wales Cricket Board wanted more than $50 million for the 2 series. Last month, Seven told the ECB that was just a bit rich for them. Apparently, Nine has now secured them paying $40 million.
Sean, story number 4. Former Prime Minister Scott Morrison landed in Israel on a solidarity visit to the Jewish state, along with former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
It's quite the pair to turn up in Israel. Morrison is the first Australian politician to visit the country since the October 7 massacres committed by Hamas terrorists. He and Johnson were scheduled to meet with Israeli President Isaac Herzog overnight, as well as families of those held hostage in Gaza and soldiers with the Israel Defense Force. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has been in the Middle East pushing for a humanitarian pause in the attacks from both sides. A deal to allow foreigners and dual nationals to start leaving the Gaza Strip is at risk of collapse as Hamas and Israel accuse each other of undermining its terms. A US official said Hamas was using the deal to evacuate some of its wounded fighters.
Sean, story number 5. Berkshire Hathaway now has a cash pile of US $157.2 billion, that's 241 billion Aussie dollars, waiting for good deals for Warren Buffett to work his magic.
Over the weekend, the company reported third quarter earnings of nearly $11 billion US dollars, higher than the previous year because all that cash is sitting in treasuries. And that's earning a higher interest rate. Berkshire's insurance business has also done better, a bit like some of the insurance business in Australia. Buffett has ramped up acquisitions in recent years. He's bought companies in oil and insurance, but basically he hasn't been able to find enough good, big deals to spend his money. Instead, he's been doing share buybacks. Too much cash. What a challenge.
That's it, the top 5 business stories in just 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Adam.
It's Monday, the 6th of November 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then find our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your favourite podcast platform. I'm Adam Lang, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed Business News. We hope you have a great day.